Hi everyone and welcome to this academy today. Let's start with a quick introduction. My name is Desiree. I am a part of the product marketing team here at Houzz, and as I just mentioned, you might hear it from my accent, I am from Germany. We are a very international team that spends a lot of time talking to professionals like you. We learn about your workflows, we hear what you're struggling with, and eventually we incorporate all of your feedback into our software. I'm happy to welcome all of you today to our Fall Academy. It's the last session of a 3-day event. And with me is Orion. Orion, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Orion. I'm on our client success team here at Houzz. I'm tuning in from Los Angeles. So as Desiree mentioned, an international team here today.
Great, thank you, Orion. So let's take a quick look at the agenda, and then we'll jump in right away. So first, we're going to look at our design tools, namely the 3D floor planner, the mood boards, and the room planner. Then we're going to switch gears and talk about time and expenses. After that, we're going to see how to create and manage tasks. We're going to learn about our schedule feature, which used to be called Timeline. And then we're going to wrap up with the client dashboard. Before I hand it over to you, Orion, a quick note to all of you once again, please make sure to be logged into your Houzz Pro accounts. It will make it a lot easier for you to follow along. And in case you have any questions, please drop all of them in the Q&A tab, and I'll do my best to cover all of them. So Orion, over to you.
Perfect. Give me one moment. I'm going to share my screen. Perfect. And then let me know if you can see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Perfect. So we're going to start by diving into some of the design tools, such as that 3D floor planner and our mood boards. There are going to be multiple ways that you can access them. When you go into projects and all projects, you can create new projects from here. I know that projects and project management was covered yesterday. I have created a project for our Design Academy today, so I'm going to click into my Design Academy project. You're going to first have this overview page, and then in the planning section, you'll have access to 3D floor plans. You can create them in the project directly. You can also access 3D floor plans through Manage if you wanted to see all of your floor plans. For the demo, I'll stick to the project itself. There are a few different ways that you can start a 3D floor plan. You can scan a room via the mobile app. This scan would be done on the app, and then it would be transferred over onto the desktop account, and then you would be able to access that scan. You can upload a 2D plan. We do have quite a few templates, or you can create one from scratch. I'll go ahead and show the 2D plan upload, as this was one of our newer updates that was a big ask. You can upload any file that's a PDF, JPEG, or PNG. The max is going to be 50 megabytes. When you click in here, it will just bring up your computer browser, and then you can select the document that you need. Once you click open, it will load. You'll select the page and then click upload.
Orion, sorry to interrupt. I think you're sharing the wrong tab.
Oh, did it not? I think it might not load. Let me see. Okay, give me one moment. I think it just, sorry about that. It looks like it didn't add my whole tab. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Perfect. I can go back and redo this. So when you upload with the 2D plan, it will open this new tab. So here on this right-hand side is where you have this upload file option. And then what pops up is just going to be my computer dialog box. So I'll go ahead and select that document. I will then select the page and then click upload, and then this plan will load for me. With the 2D tracing, we'll basically choose a room and select the length so that the plan knows the scale of the plan. So if I say this, let's say it's 24 feet, I'll click done. My plan will upload, and you'll notice that trace mode is turned on. This will not default to a plan within our 3D floor planner. You do have to trace it. In here, we can trace all of the walls. So we can start with the exterior walls by clicking our Draw Wall tool. And then we can just go ahead and start drawing these walls. You'll basically just click once to change the direction of that wall. Once you close a space, it will highlight for you. And then you can always do some of your 3D options within this 2D trace, but we'll go into that a little bit later. You can change the transparency of the plan behind it if you need to, so you can kind of see exactly what you're tracing. If you want to start tracing walls again, you can just click Draw Wall, and then we can draw that wall. If I right click, it will drop that wall for me, and then I can go back to my select option. There are doors and windows in this plan, so I can always go into this structure section and start adding those doors and windows. I'll select this 3D door, and then I can go and add these anywhere on the plan that I need to add them. You can change the dimensions when you have them selected. You can also change finishes, which we'll look at again when we go more in depth with the 3D plan. And then with this, we can do the same thing for the windows as well. Before I move on past the 2D upload and trace, are there any questions that I would need to answer for this, Desiree?
We're all good.
Okay, perfect. I'm just going to go back to this manage page, and I'll see that I have options of how to start this plan. Just for the templates, I'll kind of show you what it looks like. You have different template options. If you click this magnifying glass, it'll be kind of a preview of the plan. So this will just be that 2D view, and then I can also view it in Dollhouse. If you do opt to use a template, you can change the finishes, colors, kind of everything within the plan. It will just give you that base template to utilize. Creating from scratch, this will populate a generic room for us, and then we can go and fully create this 3D floor plan. The options that you have up here, this will be your select cursor. You do have the Draw Walls tool, which we previously used. This is going to be to draw outdoor surfaces, a new feature that just came this week. Very exciting. You have the measurement tool. You can put a ruler or a measurement within the plan itself. And then these will be your zoom options. Then you have some settings here as well. With the dimensions, I can click on a wall and then change the thickness here. I can also update the size of the wall just by clicking into the measurement itself. This previously used to live on the right-hand side. It is now going to be right at the wall. If I want to update the size of this wall, I'll put in that measurement. So I'm going to update this wall to 22 feet. And then I will decide, do I want that change to happen to the right, the left, or do I want that to equally happen? Click equally, and then both sides will move evenly. If I want to draw a wall similar to that trace, I'm just going to click, and then I can draw my wall here. Once you close a room, that draw wall cursor will drop, and you'll be back with your select cursor. Now I can add something new that we've added is ceilings. So if I want to add ceilings to a room, because I have two rooms here, I will have to select which room I want to add a ceiling to. Once I select my room, you'll have flat, shed, or cathedral ceilings as your ceiling type. And then I can click done, and I've now edited the ceiling for that room. Next on structures, again, similar to that 3D or 2D import, we can add in a door. You can place a door on the wall. Again, you can change the dimensions. You can select a finish for the door. We do have some wood finishes, paint colors. If you wanted to select a paint color, you can select between Benjamin Moore shades as well as Sherwin-Williams. Go ahead and select whichever color you would like. And then from there, you can select a hardware finish. With windows, it'll be very similar. You'll select the window that you would like, and then just drag it to the wall. And as you see, you have the measurements, so you know exactly where you're placing that. With the window, you'll want to pay attention to the distance from the floor. This will be the distance from the bottom of the window, and that's how we'll get the proper placement on the wall itself. Again, you can select finish, and you can select the hardware finish. Staircases, if you have a staircase in your plan, you have a few different options here. When we select a staircase, it will populate into the plan. Of course, we can click and move it. And then you can also rotate these staircases. You can flip orientations of that staircase. With the staircases, you can now select a riser finish. You can select a tread finish, railing finish, and then a baluster finish. With the railings, you'll be able to go into a paint color. Same thing with the risers. The baluster is going to just kind of be these finish options. If you've added an item, and this will be true for anything, you can always delete an item from your 3D plan just by selecting the item and clicking that delete button. We also have wall partitions that you can add. Again, you would just select it and place this in the plan accordingly. We have indoor fireplaces. For the indoor fireplaces, these will kind of adhere to a wall. So let's say that this was 2 different rooms. It'll just kind of select that wall that I want to adhere it to. And again, you do have that finish that you can decide as well. We do have wall openings. So if you have a wall opening with no door, we do have the arched doorways that you can add on. I can add that wall finish here. And then lastly, we have columns under the structures. Before I move on to generic products, was there any questions with the structures that I can go over?
We did receive a couple of questions. Maybe you can demo this again.
Yes.
How to add a wall and line it up exactly where I want it. I haven't been able to do that without the exterior dimensions changing.
Yeah, so when you go to draw a wall, you'll place the wall kind of wherever you want it in the plan. You'll have these dimensions over here. So you have the exterior measurement, interior measurement. But let's say that I draw this wall and those measurements might not be quite correct. Once I click on this wall here, it will now give me those exact measurements. So then I can click in, and let's say that this actually had to be 10 feet, and I need this wall to move a little bit over to my right-hand side. I can just move that wall and it will adjust that measurement accordingly.
Perfect, thank you. And then another question, how to locate the location with a measurement. For example, if the first wall is 10 feet off of another wall, how to know where the 10 feet is?
When you click on the wall, it will give you the measurements. Let me find out. I don't believe that we have, like within the wall itself, it will show you, but we can definitely find out and follow up on that. If that's not something that we currently have, happy to submit that as feedback. But mainly the way that you would do it kind of at this time is to place it and you'll see that measurement, and then you can always go in and adjust it if needed.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Were there any more questions, or can I move on to the products?
We can move on.
Perfect. So generic products, these are going to be placeholder products in a sense that you can add into this plan, but you can fully customize them, color, size, everything of that nature. We have an array of products, so bath products, bedroom, closet, you name it, it's probably in here. Kitchen products, building out a kitchen is one of the biggest things that I feel like I demo on a lot of my calls with my designers. Once you kind of master building out a kitchen with the 3D floor planner, you can truly build out anything. The great thing about this is you have options for different cabinet types, appliances, everything that you would need to build out this kitchen. Typically, you'll start with a base cabinet, and you'll see the different options that you have here. You have this search bar as well. So if you're looking for something in particular, feel free to type it in that search bar. I know that starting typically like with the sink is going to be the best. So we'll just go ahead and what just happened here? Perfect. Go ahead and add on that sink. And now I'll drag it onto the wall wherever I would like this sink to be placed. When the sink with that base cabinet is selected, you'll see all of my cabinet properties on this right-hand side. So we'll have the dimensions available for sinks. Let's say I picked 33, but it's actually 36. I can quickly adjust it in here. And then you can select the configuration, whether it's farmhouse or maybe undermount sink, and then I can just update that quickly. You'll be able to select the door style, and then you can select a finish. Again, you have these wood finishes, but you can also go in and select a different paint color. Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, you can select really kind of any color from these color schemes and it will update accordingly. From here, you'll be able to select from a variety of countertop options. Once you have your countertop selected, you can select that edge design. And then once the edge is selected is when you will be able to select the overhang. It will default to the 7/8 of an inch, extending over the front. And then we go into the different hardware styles of the cabinet. So you can select different knobs, and then you can select that finish. You also have the sink style options since this is the sink. And then again, we can go into that undermount or drop in if needed. And then you can update the faucet if you would like to as well. Once you have that base cabinet in, then we can go ahead and start adding in additional products. So if I want to add another base cabinet and just kind of start building out my kitchen, I can add this. And then again, I can go and select my door style, what that finish was. And then go from here to do my countertop, my edge, overhang, hardware, everything that we did on that sink option. From here with base cabinets, sometimes you might have quite a few base cabinets that are the same. You want to make sure that all of this is carrying over. You can always duplicate this item, and I'll move my door a little bit just so that it's out of our way. And then I can place this item here and it will duplicate everything that I have selected. And then again, you can always update the dimension. So if I duplicate this, but maybe this one is going to be a 39-inch width cabinet, I can update that. And then if you want to update the configuration, you can for select dimensions. Perfect. And then once you have base cabinets, you do have island options. It's going to all be very similar where you'll just go in and select all of your decisions. And then from here, you can add tall cabinets, wall cabinets, and backsplash. Wall cabinets, when you do add these, again, you'll have that distance from the floor just to make sure that that's in the correct space in your 3D drawing. And that will be the same when you add in the kitchen backsplash. So I can add it to this wall, and then I'll just decide what is the distance from the floor for that backsplash to make sure that it's correctly in this plan. You can then go ahead and select whether you want tile backsplash, wallpaper backsplash. We have quite a few options for the backsplash. So if there's something that you have in mind, again, you can always utilize that search bar. It'll help you comb through the different options that you have. Are there any questions on like the kitchen products or editing them?
Maybe you could once again demo how to change or enter a custom cabinet size.
Yeah, so for the cabinet size, when you click on the specific cabinet, you'll select from these specific dimensions. Once you make that selection, then it will adjust for you. I don't believe that right now we can do like a custom cabinet size. It is something that we can definitely submit feedback for. We're always making updates to the 3D floor planner, so we can submit that as feedback.
Great, thank you. And then another question: if you can use your own images for tile specs.
So you cannot currently use your own images for tile specs. A great way that you could kind of add that in to the project for the client to visualize it would be on a mood board, which we'll get into after this. But that would be kind of the best way to showcase that at this current moment.
Great, thank you.
Yes, of course. And then again, you do have all these other options as well. So like if I wanted to add a dining set to my kitchen, I have these as standard options. And then again, with all of these items, you have the dimensions, and then we can select a finish if needed. And then before I get to source, as you might have seen, when I click on this room, I have the option to add a room label. This is a newer feature where we can now label the room. And then that will pull into the project that I'm now doing, a kitchen. So all of that will kind of translate into the project itself. Once you have the room selected as well, you do have the option to add flooring. You're going to have wood options, tile options, or carpeting options to choose from. We've added some new options here recently, so we're always kind of making updates and improving. If I go ahead and add a wood option, for instance, I'm then going to have the options of that plank size. If there's a rotation on it, so let's say I want it to go the opposite direction, I might put a 90-degree rotation. What's that grade? And you have kind of all of those options there for you to select. With source, these will be items from the Houzz marketplace itself. So you can always add in those items. Let's say that I want to add in a dining set option from our marketplace. I'll just go into some dining furniture. And then I can always add in different options here. These will be from the marketplace, so they'll have the dimensions, but let's say that you're using a table very similar, you need to change the dimensions. You can always update the dimensions within the plan itself. Do we have any questions on source and how to source items for the plan?
Not right now.
Okay, perfect. And then comes the fun part, choosing your wall paint color. So going into the dollhouse view, I now have different walls within my plan. I can click a wall. If I hold down the Shift key, I can select multiple walls at a time. So let's say that all of these walls are going to be the same color. If I need to update the thickness of all of them, I can. But I can go in and select this paint color now. I can do, again, Benjamin Moore. I can do Sherwin-Williams. And then you have different options that you can select. You can also do tiled walls. So let's say that we had an accent wall. You can always select a specific wall and put different materials on the wall if you would like to. When you flip back to the floor plan view, you won't see the walls, you won't see really that wall color, but you will see that once you go back to Dollhouse or if you're in walkthrough. One of the newest features that we've added, that we just added this week, is drawing an outdoor surface. So you'll just select this icon here, and then we can go ahead and draw our outdoor surface. So if I had a patio off of this side of my drawing, I can go ahead and draw that here. Let me see. Let me just zoom out a little bit so I can get this a little bit more accurate. Perfect. And then just like the walls, I can kind of continue to draw. And then you'll get these red lines that just show you kind of exactly where you're landing. The outdoor patio will be in a little bit of a thinner line, so you'll know that this is the outdoor area. And you'll notice when you have this section selected, you can choose from pavers, ground cover, deck, or pavement options. So just to showcase a few of the different paver options that we have. And then when you go into dollhouse, of course, would see those there. If we wanted to do a different ground cover, we do have grass. You can create a deck off of the house as well as pavement. Just to quickly flip back to the generic product, you'll now notice that in the generic products, we have outdoor products. So we have a few different outdoor options, such as a barbecue, some outdoor chairs, a chaise lounge. And then we also do have a pool option as well. This pool is going to be quite large for my plan, but you can also add in a pool and then utilize the ground cover around it to really kind of visualize that for your clients. I'll go ahead and add maybe some chairs into this plan. And then I can always rotate these just so that the orientation of the chairs is correct. And that's going to be the same with any of these items as well. If I want to just rotate so that I have that in the correct direction. And then again, if we go to dollhouse, we'll see those items. Something new that you might also have noticed is that now with specific items, you'll see this blue hand. If you click that, you'll notice that your cursor kind of grabs, and I can now move this around in the dollhouse view. So it definitely helps when you're really visualizing, kind of space planning, designing with decor items, that you can now place them within the plan itself exactly where you want them. Are there any questions on the outdoor spaces?
We're all good.
Perfect. It's a very exciting new tool. I'm very excited about it. So I hope that everyone loves it. And then also you have a walkthrough option. The walkthrough option will be more so a life-size walkthrough of the plan that you've just designed. This is really great to utilize on the mobile app, whether you're on a smartphone or a tablet. If I'm doing a kitchen remodel for my client, and a lot of my accounts actually will do this, they create the plan on their desktop, then they go and they meet with their client again. And as they're standing in that room, they can then take their tablet or their smartphone and do a walkthrough. As you move it, you kind of see the design and they get more of that sense of the space and definitely gets them excited for that upcoming remodel or design project. And then up at the top here, you'll notice actions. You can create a new plan directly from this. So if I just wanted to create a new plan altogether, duplicate is another great option. I know sometimes you might supply your client with a couple different design options. There might be different finishes, and you don't want to recreate this plan completely from scratch. You can go ahead and duplicate it and then go into your specific items or walls, floors, and change up the selections that you have. You can delete a plan from here. You can always open additional floor plans that you have in your account. You can print it, or you can also save it as a PDF through this print option. It will print whatever view that you're in. So let's say that I wanted to save a view of the dollhouse. I would just make sure that exactly what I see on my screen is what I want to print and or save as a PDF. And then you always have the tutorial option here, as well as the help option. If ever you get stuck, you have these resources here for you. And then I can share this directly with my client. I can go ahead and send this to my client. They will receive the email with that shareable link. Once they click that link, they will essentially have this same view that we have Oh, sorry, I think I've been having some internet issues today, but they would have this same view that we have, floor plan dollhouse walkthrough, without any of the options to edit or see any of the dimensions. So they can really kind of visualize that if you do send that to them. The last thing on here is that we can name this plan as well. So if I wanted to name this kitchen option 1, I can go ahead and name this plan. Were there any questions about the 3D floor plan? Are there any other details that you would like me to go over before we move on to the mood boards?
Yes, there is one question about second stories, if they can be included in one drawing.
So we do not have second stories right now. It may be coming in the future, but it's definitely something that we can submit feedback to our product team for.
Great, thank you. And
Yes.
then another question, if you can create a specific pattern with your backsplash tile.
With the backsplash tile, it's going to be, let me click on my backsplash here. So the pattern is going to be preset, but again, that is definitely something that we can submit as product feedback after the webinar today.
Great, thank you.
Perfect. If there are any other questions, definitely throw them in the chat. We can always circle back towards the end of our time today, but I will go ahead and move forward into our mood boards. Mood boards, again, are going to be in the planning section of your project. You can also access all of your mood boards through this Manage tab in your main Houzz Pro account. When I click on mood boards, I don't have one created yet for this project, so I'll go ahead and create a new mood board. And then I can always add a new room if I want to. We'll do a living room for our mood board. This will prompt you at first if you want to add products. Do I want to add color swatches? I can add my floor plan that I just created, or I can add in images. You also have all of those options on your right-hand side, which we'll go through each and every one of them. Project items here, so we can add any items that we have either clipped with our clipper to the project, which I believe was covered on the webinar yesterday. Or if I have any specific project items, I can add them into my mood board. Library will be your overall Houzz Pro product library. Any item that you've clipped and is in your library will show up here for you. We can go ahead and start adding some items. And now you have the options for the items on this right-hand side. I can duplicate if I wanted to flip that. You do have the option to crop. With the edit background tool, we have definitely made some updates to this. It is a lot easier to remove that background. You can always restore backgrounds if needed. I didn't have a background on this one. I will pull in a different item just to kind of show you what that would look like. But you can always kind of customize that background too. Skew is great for things such as rugs. If I just wanted to make this more realistic into the view, I can. Let's say if I had my couch and I wanted this to be underneath it, and then I have that kind of skewed just so that we show that this is kind of at that angle. Again, this edit background, so as you can see, I have some of the background that's still showing here. And then I can erase this even further, adjusting this brush size and erase the background that's coming in, which is this like white part here. Once I apply those changes, then we don't have that white anymore. And then we'll see that rug as the rug is in back of this couch item. So it's sitting on top of it. Source, again, you can add any items from the Houzz Marketplace. So if I wanted to go back into furniture, maybe I want to add a coffee table. I can go ahead and look at the details of this item, and then I can add that directly to my mood board. With idea books, I know sometimes you might be doing idea books with your client, kind of that collaborative space. You can add in any items or photos from idea books into your mood board. And then images. I have quite a few accounts that have images of items or just some images, overall design ideas that they like to add into the mood board itself. And you can add those directly from your computer. It'll just pop up that computer dialog box. You can pull in any file. Paint colors, again, you can add paint swatches here, which is great. So if I want to add maybe some Benjamin Moore paint swatches, I can add those. I can again go back into Sherwin-Williams and add some Sherwin-Williams colors. And you can add multiple on the mood board itself. And of course, you can always resize these if needed. Then 3D floor plans. I can add a 3D floor plan into my mood board. So if I just wanted to show what that space might look like, I can go ahead and add this one that we just created. And then again, we can always crop. It will give you those grid lines, but you can go in and crop those out if you just want that floor plan itself to show. And then you can always resize, duplicate. We can flip that orientation. And then again, crop. There's no background or there's nothing behind it. So it's just kind of sitting there. On the mood board itself, let's say that you want a background color for the mood board. You can add a background color. And then if you did something and you're like, I need to change this, click undo, and it will just kind of revert you back to exactly what you just did. The size of the mood board is going to default to presentation. You do have the option to do widescreen presentation, and then you can print 8.5 by 11, and then we have additional print options as well, just so that you get the correct sizing if you needed to use this to present to a client. You can add a text box. And then if you click enter, you can add a second line. When you click done, here is your text box. You can resize this. You can then select a different font. You can select a different color of the font as well. And then you can also select the size here. But again, you can just kind of drag that text box to change the size of the font itself. These are more so going to be just kind of those view options. Am I zooming in, zooming out? Did I zoom in too far? Do I need to go back to center? So those will be these options here for you. You can draw on the plan itself. You can add an arrow if I needed to add an arrow to living room design. You have a couple shape options, an arrow or just a line. And then you can always add in a ruler if you need to add a ruler just to show measurement. You have that ruler option as well. Again, you can print or save as a PDF. We can also share this directly with the client from this screen here. And then they'd be able to see that. I'll just send it to myself so that we have that view. Are there any questions on the mood board before I move forward?
There is one question about the idea books tab. Could you explain a bit more about this?
Yes, so idea books are something that you can actually create on your Houzz profile. You can pull in different products, photos, just kind of anything from the Houzz site into this idea book. And you can share it with clients or vice versa. A client can create one and share it with you. So they might have had some time to go through the Houzz website. They have some design ideas. I don't have any idea books in my account, but if you had any that were shared with you or that you created, they would show up here. You would select them, and then you could select what items from the idea book itself you wanted to showcase on the mood board.
Great. And then a couple of people asked how to add their business logo to the mood board.
Yeah, so when I go into my library, I have my logo already listed in my product library because it's something that I get asked all the time and I demo quite often. So you can always add in your logo. Your logo actually should default there for you to add. Again, you can always add it as an image. That's another option as well. The image would pull in the exact same, and then you can size this and place it anywhere on the mood board that you would like that to be.
Perfect. And then one last question about the ruler. How does the ruler know what size the item is?
So you would enter that, let's see. Once you create that ruler option, then you can put in whether I want this feet, yards, millimeters, centimeters. Let's see, I'll put 3 feet. Once I click done, it will have that right there for me. And then you can adjust this accordingly.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes. Were there any other mood board questions before we move on to the room planner?
We're good, we can move on.
Perfect. I'm just going to go back into my same project. And now, as you'll see on my overview page, since we created mood boards, that's going to be in here as well. And now we'll go ahead and create our room planner again under the planning section. I'll go ahead and click in created one for me because I created that living room mood board. So here we have our room planner. And then we can add different items to the room planner itself. The room planner is a collaborative space that we can use with our clients. How a lot of my designers use it, they'll create mood boards and create a 3D floor plan, and they send the room planner prior to the proposal or the invoice so they can really visualize everything, use it for budgeting with that client. You can add items from the project, from your library. You can add any 3D floor plans, mood boards, images, or files to the room plan itself. If I click on this information I have my room plan info. I can add in a cover image. If you don't add a cover image, it defaults to the mood board. And then you can always update this information. If you needed to assign this to a team member, you can assign the room plan to a specific team member. And then I'm going to go ahead and add this mood board that I just created. The mood board will add as a larger item. If you click on the ellipses, you can change the size. So if I just want this to be kind of smaller within my room plan, I can choose that option. I can also select it to be large so that the client kind of sees that nice and big. 3D floor plan, we can go ahead and add in a 3D floor plan that we've created to the plan itself. Again, same thing, you can change the size of this, and then you can opt to set this as a cover image if you don't select a different cover image. When I go to my project items, because I added these items on my mood board, the great thing is that it will now associate that with my project. So I can easily click in the items that I had within my mood board. But let's say that I have other options for my library that I want to add in. Again, I can go to my full product library and add in any additional options as needed. Images, same thing, you can upload images, and then files you can upload in here as well. You'll notice this budget bar here. You can set a room budget. So if I go ahead and set my budget, I can choose to include tax. I can choose to include shipping cost if needed. And then I will select my tax rate. As you can see, there is an option to create a new tax rate if you maybe haven't created one in the past. You can easily do it from this screen here. Once I click done, now my budget bar is updated. And then I can kind of play around and include different items in the budget and or remove them to see where I'm pacing with that budget for this particular room. On the items themselves, you can go into an item overview. You'll see any photos that you have clipped, and then you can go into the general details. You can update the description if needed. The financials will have the pricing for you, or you can update, let's say that now my markup is actually 20% for this project. I can go ahead and update that directly through the room plan. If you wanted to add in the tracking information, you can add it at this stage if needed, but you have all of the item information just at the click of this button. This here is going to be the product link. So if you've clicked it and there's a product link, I can go ahead and click that, and it will bring me back to the main page where that item is from. And then here you have a comment section. You can comment to your client. They can also comment to you. You can comment to team members. So I'll comment to my team member. They've been tagged, they'll get that notification that there is a comment. The client will not see the team comments. The client will only see any comments that are listed under client. And then again, with these options as well, I can always change the size of these items. I can set a product as a cover image. Let's say that I wanted to hide something from a client. I don't want them to see the floor plan that I have in here. I can go ahead and hide this from the client. And then you'll have that kind of updated for yourself. Before I go to the preview and share option where we will be able to see what a client sees, is there any questions that I'd be able to answer on adding the products, product information, anything of that nature?
Yes, could you show more about the cover image? Where will it show and how to change it?
Yes, so the cover image to change, you would just click on the information eye and then you can select to change the cover image. I'll change it just so that we can see. So I've just changed this to a photo that I have already on my computer. It's in there. When I go back to my room plan, you'll see the cover image here, but the client will also see that cover image when you're sending that room plan. And then again, I can always go back in. Let's say that I don't want that. I actually want my mood board. I can go back in and set my mood board as the cover image at any time.
Perfect, thank you. And then another question about the link, the URL for the items.
Yes.
How can I decide if I wanted to show to my client or hide it from my client, and how will it look for my client?
Great questions. Great segue into this preview and share option. So when you go to preview and share, similar to if you attended the Academy yesterday and you saw the documents, you get to decide what your client does and does not see. So here you have view settings. Under pricing, we can show the item pricing or hide it, hide that budget. Item details is where you will have the product links. By default, they will be hidden unless you go in and you choose to show them. It will save your preferences. So you'll just have to remove those if you wanted to share it with one client, but maybe not another one. You can always go in here and update this. You can choose to show the quantity. Let's say that we don't even want the description to show. You can hide that description. So when the client clicks on the overview, they won't have that description in there. And then the last setting option is going to be approvals. So you can decide if the client can approve or decline specific items. Very useful for products and services, but maybe I don't want it on my mood board. I can turn that off if I had any images or files. So I can turn off approvals for specific items. This again is just going to be our preview view. We have not yet shared it with the client. You do have sharing options. If you click this drop down, you can publish this to the client dashboard and they'll see it on their dashboard. You can export this as a PDF. You can also create a tear sheet, or I can click share and send this directly to my client. They will essentially get a view very similar to this view here. And then they have that room plan that they can then go and approve or decline specific items. Are there any questions on the preview and share and the different view settings?
We're all good.
Perfect. And then I will just go right back to the room plan itself. Let me reload my page since I just went in as the client to make the approvals. You'll see that now the approved items will be included in that budget. Declined item is not going to be included. Maybe client had a change of heart. We need to go in and either reset the selection so they can go back in, or I had a meeting with them and I'm going to go ahead and just update this while we're sitting here in meeting. Once you have this room plan finalized, you can then convert it to either a proposal or an invoice, depending on your workflow. That's what I tell all of my accounts. The beauty of Houzz Pro is you can really make the software work for your business exactly how you need it and how your business flows. If you wanted to create that proposal, you can go ahead and convert it to a proposal. If you wanted to bypass, just select invoice and it will create that invoice for you. I'm not going to go into the proposals and invoices as I know that it was covered on the call yesterday, but just so that you do have the information, any declined items will not show up here for you to add. If you needed to add it, you would just have to go back in and either approve it or reset the selection to allow the client to approve it. Let's say that I had a living room plan and maybe you have a kitchen plan as well, and I want the items to be on the same document. You can select the items from each plan and combine them into the same proposal or the same invoice itself. And then you can also filter. If I wanted to only do these by specific vendors, I can. Same thing with categories. So you can really decide how you're organizing the documents that are coming from this room plan. Are there any questions on the conversion of room plans or any additional questions on room plans?
We're all good. We can move on.
Perfect. I will go back into my project and now we are going to touch on time and expenses, which I know is huge with a lot of design accounts. The main way that I have accounts utilizing the time tool is through this stopwatch. Many of you may be familiar with it, may have used it. So you can start a stopwatch and then you will select the project, the service. I can always add services through this section here as well. I will show you in just a moment where we can go to manage the services, but you do have the option to create an additional service just by typing in that service. You will put in whatever your hourly rate is. Is this taxable? Is this billable? You can add in a description if you'd like. And then once you click clock in, that clock will start. You can run multiple clocks at the same time. So I can always click on my clock and add a new time clock. Maybe this is for travel, and I can go ahead and clock in under that as well. Once your time runs, you're ready to clock out. Click clock out. And then you can always update this. If I needed to round this up, let's say I'm going to do this as an hour. I can update that directly, and then that will save for me. As I have done that on the project level, now when I go to time and expenses, you will see my time entries listed here. This is one way where you can manage time services. It's going to be on the project level. Again, this manage tab, you can always manage time and services or time and expenses, I'm sorry, here, and you can manage those services as well. The manage service option will give you the option to decide between team member. Some team members might have different services, different rates, so you can always go in and view those. I can edit them if needed. And then I can, of course, create new services. Expenses is going to be very similar. I can add in expenses directly through the project. Again, you can manage your expense services. I can create a new entry. And then whatever that cost was. I can add a description. The great thing here too is that you can upload a file if you need to upload a receipt or an image. Anything of that nature, you can upload that so that it's associated with this expense here. Once I save this, now I have my expense entry. With time and expenses, you can create them on the same invoice. I can do multiple times on the same invoice. I can also add in this expense to that same invoice. And then once you have that all selected, I can create that invoice with my time and expense entries. And similar to on the Design Academy yesterday, this is that invoice that I can then send to the client for payment of my time and services. Just to kind of showcase what this might look like under that Manage tab, when you go to Manage Time and Expenses, this will show all of my time that I've logged within Houzz Pro. If it's grayed out, that means that it's already been invoiced, and once you hover over it, will show you where it has been invoiced. So this is always another area where you can come in and view all of your time entries, not just by project. If you wanted to differentiate, you can do it by specific team member here. Are there any questions on time and expenses before we move on to the tasks?
We can move on.
Okay, perfect. So on this overview page, you may have noticed that there is a section called tasks. You can create tasks directly on the overview page. When I create a task, I can then click into my task. I can assign a due date. I can select an assignee. I want to assign it to my team member. What's really great is from a lot of these screens, let's say that my team member is not invited. I can go ahead and invite my team member. Just makes it very easy to navigate if you needed to add someone in. Let's say that I needed to assign this to the client. I can also assign tasks to the client. And then you'll see you also have the option to invite a subcontractor to the project if maybe this was a job or a task that I needed to assign to one of my subs. The task will default to open when you've just created it. You can, of course, add in a description, upload any files, and then you can keep this private. Or let's say that I want to share this on that dashboard. I can make this a shared task. Now it will be visible to my client on the dashboard. I can opt to send an email to a client just to notify them, and then I can go ahead and save those preferences there. When I'm in the project, if I have a task, let's say that I've already ordered that sofa, I can go ahead and complete that task. It will tell me that I've completed this. I can view my completed tasks, create additional tasks here. Let's say you wanted to see all of the tasks that you have across projects. One way that you can do that is when you go to Projects, All Projects, you have this task option here. And again, this will show me any tasks that I've had across any project. I can sort them by due date. I can always search the name. If I wanted to search by specific project, maybe if I assign this to a client or one of my team members, I can sort that as well, just so that you have full visibility of all of the open tasks or whether or not they've been completed. We will touch upon tasks as well in the scheduling tool because you can now add them in the schedule. But for the tasks on the project overview, as well as that all task section, do we have any questions before I move into the schedule?
All good, let's move on.
Perfect. So the schedule is going to be within your project under your project management tools. We'll click on schedule. And then I'm going to have my blank schedule here. You might notice something that looks a little bit different. We can now save templates and create schedules from templates that we've saved, which is a great feature, definitely something that has been asked for. So I can either start from scratch or I can start from this schedule template that I have already created. Just because this one is built out, I'll go ahead and click on it just so you can kind of see, and then we'll add items and play around with this schedule. So I have kind of a basic kitchen remodel schedule created here. And then from here, I've added stages. I've added different items within the stages. If I click into any of these, then I'll see all of the options here that I have within these specific items. Let's say that I needed to add another phase here. I wanted to add a final walkthrough. Just as you're creating a schedule from scratch, you would just click Add Phase. And then from here, I want to add an item to the phase so that this will show up on my schedule. Once I click into this, you'll see kind of all of my options. I have my date options here that I can add. Is this an all-day event? Is this assigned to a specific team member? And then dependencies. Dependencies are great because, of course, the walkthrough has to happen after everything else in this remodel has occurred. So I can go ahead and make sure that it begins after the appliance installation. I'll just move this quickly on my scheduling tool here. You can add in a description. If I want to change the color, I can change the color. And then here's where you have the option to add additional tasks. So I can add in this task. Again, from here, I can go ahead and make sure that there's a due date of September 30th. And then I want to make sure that that is assigned to the appropriate team member. And then we can click Save, and that is saved. Again, you can always add additional tasks to each of these items. Right now, we're in the Gantt view. So that is one of the views of the scheduling tool. The Gantt view is really great, especially when you're looking at the dependencies. With the dependencies, let's say the demolition is pushed back, everything that's dependent is going to move with it. So it makes it very, very easy to update the schedule as needed. Going into the calendar view, you'll be able to see the items. Again, you're not really going to see those dependencies. And then you do now have the list view, which is super helpful. You see everything just listed out for you. You can easily add in new items, assign this to a team member, make any edits. Let's say that this has been completed. I can go ahead and mark that as complete directly from this screen. Are there any questions before I continue moving with the scheduling tool?
There is one very good question about moving phases up or down. Can you change the order of the phases?
So you can change the order of the phases by changing the dependencies. So when you go to edit details, if you change the dependencies, that's how you would change kind of that order that they occur. And then, of course, you would change the dates because the dates might be changed. But yes, that's a really great question. Fully do it through the item itself.
Great, thank you.
Another great feature is, again, we can look, maybe I want to see what's been assigned to me. I can look and see what is assigned to me. I'm going to clear that selection. We can look at opened task, completed tasks, and items as well. This share option here, when you create a schedule, it's only going to be shared to the team members that have access to the project, but you can choose to share this to the client dashboard. I want to give the client dashboard access. I can also choose to share this with subs and vendors that have access to this particular project. Again, you just click on no access and it will give them access. At quick glance, a way to see who is shared with, if you look at these icons here, this is going to be client, this is team members, and then that orange one would be for your subcontractors. Under options, now that I've made updates to this, even though this was still created from a template, or if you're creating a template or a schedule kind of from scratch, you can choose to save this as a template. You will just add a name to the template, and then you can decide if you want to keep the phases. Maybe I just want phases, but not the items. I can choose to turn the items and dependencies off. And then, of course, it's not going to let me create because I don't have a name. But once you add that name, you click create, and you will now have this as a template to create future schedules from. Again, under options, you can sync this with your calendar. This would be the link that you would utilize to sync this onto your calendar application. Are there any questions with the scheduling tool, how to share to the client dashboard, or how to interact with any of the items or phases?
No more question at this point.
Perfect. And then just to kind of segue into that client dashboard that we keep talking about sharing too, client dashboards are a great tool. A lot of designers are utilizing this client dashboard to give the client visibility into their project. The great thing about it is you really do control what your client is going to see. So room plan, we shared that. That's going to be in here. They will see a message section. So of course they can message you. You can message them. Financials, if you have an invoice that you've sent to a client or a proposal that you've sent, those financial documents will be listed here. And then you can also choose if you want the balances, how much has been paid, if there's credit or maybe an outstanding balance to show, you can select that here. So we haven't yet shared the client dashboard. We're kind of just selecting those settings before we go ahead and send this to our client. Again, by removing those, then those would remove from the financial tab. Our schedule will show up here since we opted to share this with the client. The files section, unless you have gone into files and opted to share to the client dashboard, no files are going to show. It's really great because you can upload all of your content into a project almost like a Dropbox, and then you really decide what is shared with the client and what is kept internal. Our task is going to be here. Since we shared this with the client, I marked it as completed earlier, so it'll show on this right-hand side. And then it just tells them that they're caught up with their current tasks. And then down below, we'll have the room plan where they can actually go into this particular room plan, or if you had multiple, those would be listed on here. From here, I can send this directly to my client. When it sends the email, there will be a link to the client dashboard. I can also just opt to get the link sharing and then copy and paste that, send that to my client. The link won't change, so that link should be live for the duration of their project. They should be able to reference back to that. But if they ever need you to resend it, again, if you just go back in the project and click Client Dashboard, that option is going to pop back up for you to resend this to the client or re-pull that link to share. Are there any questions on the client dashboard?
No questions. We're all good.
Perfect. Well, that was the last of my items that I had to share. So I will kick it back to you, Desiree.
All right, thank you. So before we wrap it up, I wanted to take 1 minute to share with you our certification program. This is our certification program. It consists of 25 tasks, and completing those tasks will help you be more comfortable with our tools and eventually run your business better with Houzz Pro. You can enter the certification program through your home screen in Houzz Pro, and it will take you directly to the screen. Once you have finished one of the tasks, you will see this little green check mark. And once you have completed all the 25 tasks, we will send you a badge through email. You can add this badge to your website, to your Houzz profile, or you can share it through your social media or also in your email signature. Yes, so thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you found it valuable. We will be sharing the recording with you in the next week or two. Thanks, Orion, also, and have a good rest of your day, everyone.